has to say in Shaggy. Come on, comrades, put those cell phones away. You know very well that such bourgeois commodities have no place at a Margate Unicom SOC meeting. That's right, switch them off. You too, Bev, get off that tiresome treadmill. Oh, and Mikey, couldn't help but overhear you then, comrade. Just so you know, last time I checked, discussing the lost finale isn't going to de-alienate labor. You know what will, though? Anybody? That's right, Big Mac. Organizing. We're all intimate with what Marx wrote in the third part of his Das Kapital trilogy. Beware the idiot box, Carl counseled. Pardon, Beck? Quite the contrary. Marx did in fact write that, which is something you might have known if you ever got past Capital too. More pertinently, are you insinuating that KM wasn't aware that television would be invented by a capitalist? A bit presumptuous, no? That sounds rather presumptuous. Anton Krueger, co-author with Pravasan Pillay of 14 Rather Amusing Rambles, called Shaggy. Welcome to SAfm Literature.
Thanks, Robert.
What's a Shaggy dog?
It's kind of an old-fashioned joke, Shaggy dog story. Nobody seems to have heard of it. I thought it was popular knowledge. That's why we didn't call it Shaggy dog stories. We thought the Shaggy would be enough. But anyway, it's basically a very long, rambling, kind of pointless story that goes in all sorts of 101 directions and then has some sort of inconclusive ending. I mean, I don't know. It is probably an old-fashioned kind of joke form. So that's the Shaggy dog story. That's where it comes from.
All right. When I think of Shaggy, I think of the character in no, ew. No. Well, the singer, yes, but because he's more popular in contemporary times. But
you can call it singing.
But Snoopy, the cartoon dog.
Yeah.
Shaggy, and they go and chase ghosts. They're like 60s, 70s cartoons.
Okay.
Yeah. And he used to ramble on and not make much sense.
Oh,
and he was always eating. The owner of this Snoopy dog. And he was a bit idiotic, but he meant wow.
You're talking about Charlie Brown?
No.
Oh.
I'm talking about the Snoop dog that chases. But anyway, it doesn't matter. You find it on the idiot box. But so these characters, how did you come up with them, you and Pravasan? How did the project come together?
We kind of just wanted to work on something together. We had sort of a slightly similar but also quite dissimilar senses of humor. And I mean, I tend to like more zany, wacky stuff, and he's more kind of straight-laced, and he's a little bit more methodical in engineering the gags. And we just started bouncing around some ideas. Well, actually, no, it didn't start as a comedy project. We just started writing a story together, and it developed into the story that was now published in this Gary Kaminsky's book, The Edge of Things. We invented a pseudonym, Pan Boyson, for the two of us. So that was sort of a serious ghost kind of story. And then we started writing together on Google Docs. You know, we can create this document and you can both pitch in. And somehow it just came about. The structure wasn't predetermined. The structure of the character talking and a character sort of that kind of ironic narrator. You know, where you find out that he's like a bit of a whatever, crazy kind of or just a fool. You know, like a Charles Bosman sort of narrator. And somehow that became a thing only as we went along. They're not really based on real people. Well, there's a spoof or two. There's the SABC thing, and then there's the Leon Schuster ripoff.
Yes.
So here and there, it's a little bit based on, but I think those are probably the only two that are based on recognizable people. But for the rest, it was, I guess they're recognized on a type. I mean, like the art critic guy who goes on about his conceptual art project. That is sort of a satire or a parody of a type of person, I suppose. But it isn't a specific person.
All right, but these are characters that are familiar. Now I remember it's Scooby-Doo, that dog.
Oh, okay.
Yes, Shaggy was one of the guys, the teenagers who would go ghost hunting. And Shaggy was a bit of an idiot. So
okay.
that's come back to me. But the guy that I read out to, you know, the excerpt, that's the activist. And we're all kind of familiar with the lazy varsity student with rich parents who sort of, falls back on certain sort of leftist ideas as an excuse to get away with doing anything really constructive or meaningful. But why Margate as a place where a lot of these characters come from?
No, hey, it's like very weird. It sort of crept in. Well, we ultimately, again, a sort of organic process. At the end, we decided, okay, it's all going to be Margate or Germiston. Germiston's going to be the urban setting, and Margate will be everywhere else. I don't know. We both kind of dislike Margate. It's a nice little holiday town, and I don't know how it ended up. It seemed like a funny place. When we did the play version last year, it was Uitenhage, which is closer to Grahamstown. So I think Uitenhage is quite a funny sounding place name as well. But somehow Margate wanted to toss up between where all the stories were being set. I guess it was just a small town concept as well, that these people, whatever they're engaged with, political or art or all this sort of stuff, it's actually ultimately all just in one little municipality in one suburb of Margate that they're kind of venting their spleen and so on.
Okay, and you say that this book would make you wish your cousin had rather given you Spud 5 for your birthday. Where does that jab come from?
It's probably just pure jealousy, I think. I mean, I'm sure it's a great book. I haven't read it. I just know it's sold over 100,000 copies and they've made it up in movies with John Cleese and so on. So, geez, I wish I was that guy. So I should probably read it someday.
And he's a nice person, so
yeah, I'm sure he is.
It doesn't help, It's one of those,
No, I've seen his plays before, the Green Mamba series and all that stuff. It was pretty funny.
We're in conversation with Anton Krueger. He's one of the authors of Shaggy, 14 Rather Amusing Rambles. And there are different kinds of characters that they've put together. Now, the copy that I'm sitting with says Anton's copy.
Yeah, well, last week in Grahamstown, that was the only one I had left. And they posted one, and the publishers did post it, but it came too late or whatever, so I gave that one to Jordan.
Okay. Because it's got red scribbles in it and stuff like that, so...
Yeah, no, it never ends. After the thing's published, I can never really read it properly, because I'm still thinking of changes that could have been made or that we could make next time and so on.
Now, as people who like playing with words and we like to be serious about them at the same time, and others are more precious about how we use various languages than others, the truth about caboose? Caboose. That was something that I could relate with, because there are people who tend to get a bit much when it comes to, writing and reading and stories. I feel sorry for people like that.
You feel sorry for people like that? You mean he's a sci-fi writer?
Yeah.
Or the writing group thing?
Yes.
I don't know. I guess it's the main kind of comic device that we use is exaggeration. I guess we start with a concept and then just sort of blow it up out of all proportion and caricature that sort of makes fun of that situation, whether it's art or politics or whatever, or filmmaking. So I would say I feel sorry for people like that necessarily. It's I don't know, we just like having a go at everybody.
Yes, I get sent manuscripts back of people like that. That's why. And you want to be kind, but you want to say, I think you stick to what you're currently good at,
Yeah, I guess I have a sort of an oppositional nature, I suppose. If somebody suggests an idea, puts something forward, I always think of the opposite thing. So if somebody comes and talks about the beauty of words and how they love to smell the page, and I immediately think, oh, that's all like romanticist stuff, and I kind of like disparage it. But on the other hand, if somebody is sort of disrespectful of text, or then I'm immediately on the side of literature in defending it. So I guess one's point of view changes depending on who you're talking to.
Okay, so you come across as reactive then, but you're also pretty proactive considering the amount of work that you're busy coming out with and the range.
Well, maybe, I don't know.
Now, what if someone reads this and they identify with one of the characters, that they feel that they have a characteristic like that? What should they do then? Should they get some help?
Well, I'm just hoping that your tutor doesn't take us to court or something, because he's got a lot of money and he should probably do it. So I hope it's not too... we sort of based something on it, but it was not purely on it, but it's the only case where I think somebody could be really offended or insulted.
Yeah.
But I guess, therapy would be a good idea if you actually identify with these characters.
So, tell us about the road to publishing this. This is something that you're doing yourself, right?
No. It's by BK Publishing. It's an independent publisher in Pretoria. They've been bringing out Look Away, this art magazine, for the last 6 or 7 years. So they've only published one. They published a children's book a year ago. So this is actually their first sort of venture. We did send it to the big publishers, and they all really liked it, but they thought it was quite niche. So they weren't sure about the market and this, that, and the other. So it was hard to get in there without without us putting in money or something. Like people would prepare to go half and what, but we didn't really want to do that. So it is kind of a slightly risky, because it's hard to categorize it. That's the first thing publishers want to know. Which shelf is it going to sit on? What's the genre? And it's just, okay, we call it short stories, but it's kind of monologues, and it's sort of like comedy, and it's commentary. So it's kind of an uneasy fit onto the bookshelf, So we needed a upcoming young publisher. Well, he's the one who took it, Benoit Knox, who's publishing it for us in Pretoria. So he took it on board, and we're glad that somebody did.
Okay, I met Benoit at the Josie Book Fair last year.
Okay.
And
sorry, I was going to just say, but because the stories, some of them were serialized in A Look Away. That's also the connection.
Oh, right.
And I think 4 or 5 of them were serialized in the last issues of A Look Away. So obviously he was the natural choice to take it further.
I can't help but get the feeling that nowadays if someone wants to get published by the more mainstream publishing houses, it's a good idea to send a business plan along with your manuscript.
Well, they ask for it now. They're quite explicit about it. All the publishers actually want you to write a thing about who's your market, what else is out there. You've got to do their job for them. Tell them how is your book different to the other 5 books that are about the same thing and what. So definitely, publishing these days is really a high-powered business game. It's not just writing and you send it in and hope for the best.
But we don't have enough books coming out to warrant the need for agents. And how does, now in order to be a published writer, one almost feels as if you need to do an MBA while you're at it. And then what happens to your creativity and your art form?
Yeah, but I guess that's sort of the lot of, in South Africa, even if you do fine art or drama or whatever, you've got to be involved in marketing, you've got to be involved in production. There's very few people that can actually just do their thing, like you can in places where there's a lot more subsidy for this sort of thing.
Then what do publishers do?
What do they do?
Yes.
What's their job? Somebody should be doing their job.
Someone should be doing their job. Well, I'm glad that VK took it up, but that's another conversation, publishing for another day. And I do like to take a dig at them, but there is great work coming out, but we always need to push the industry in the right direction.
Yeah, I guess it sort of also depends on what kind of skill set you got, where you're coming from and what you're good at. And if they're good at promoting and packaging and putting together books, then that's great, why not? And it is burgeoning. There are more books being published every year. So I don't think it's all bad.
And I like how the book ends with a foreword. Anton Krueger, send our regards to Pravasan Pillay. Thanks for your time. It was a pleasure having you on SAfm Literature.
Thanks, Karamo.
14 Rather Amusing Rambles. It's called Shaggy. You can get it for around 135 Rand.
Whose life have you tossed